Acolytes. What's wrong with eating humans? From Daily Mind Trap. Now, as my acolyte that actually sent me this, even I, in my endless wisdom, went, what the F is this for a... What? Why? Exactly this. So, we're just gonna hear what this young lady has to say about this, because... Well, if you want to know if you cannibalize another human being, there are certain parts of a human being that we cannot really, well, let's just say process, and you are disposed to actually, well, to different illnesses. Some of the, well, mind variety. That's the short of it. Let's just hope that she just clickbaited the F out of us and oof. Damn.
Imagine walking into a pretentious, modern fine dining restaurant in New York's East Village. A stoic host leads you to a minimalist seated counter that overlooks an open kitchen. The dish that has everybody talking this season? Ouroboros steak. 40-day dry age served with a roasted bone broth reduction, cortical emulsion, hibiscus and beet jelly, and seasonal greens. But
I'm getting everything. Okay, I'm getting myself a freaking steak afterwards, acolytes. Yes, even a Lich doesn't need food, but I'm still gonna eat it because it tastes good.
what makes this dish so enticing? Well, it's the steak, grown from cultured human muscle cells, bioengineered for a tender, marbled texture, with a deep, umami-rich flavor akin to wagyu.
For F's sake, even my necromantic skin gets goosebumps. Ugh, damn.
Ethically cultured human steak. No one was killed, no one suffered, no risk of disease. Just a...
Oh! Huh. So literally made in a lab. Unethical, nonetheless. Because as everybody, hopefully, of you, at least has some icky feelings about this.
perfectly grown piece of human meat created with science. Would you eat it?
No.
Lab-grown human meat is
No.
nothing new. Scientists have been growing human skin in labs for decades,
Yes.
used to treat
Yes,
severe
that's true.
burns. In 2018, scientists successfully grew living human muscle tissue that can contract and respond like real muscles. And in 2019, scientists 3D printed a tiny human heart with working cells and blood vessels.
The thing is with the muscles and the heart that I think that it didn't have a high chance of actually the body accepting it, but I could be wrong in that one, because this is what I heard or knowledge that I had for years and years ago. I know there were some problems with it, but I don't remember which ones exactly. Yeah, okay,
Using
relevant.
bioink made from human cells. So we're already growing human parts in labs for other purposes. Why not food? Well, mainly because it's too expensive, it's really hard to do, and there's no demand for it. But other than that, is there anything wrong with eating human meat?
Yes, ethically,
The term
yes.
Ouroboros steak actually comes from a conceptual project that hit headlines in 2020, marketed as a sort of grow your own meat kit. Diners could culture their own meat blob out of cells from their own cheek. You know I love a DIY opportunity. The project was meant to highlight some of the key issues in the fast-growing cultured meat industry, like the use of fetal bovine serum. But most people just freaked out about the auto-cannibalism thing. Because
Yes.
when it comes to cannibalism, many of us are decidedly rigid. But why is that?
Why didn't she say that she's also rigid about it? Acolytes, I am freaking worried. If a ghoul eats something like this, fine, fair enough. I mean, for F's sake, at that point, you're an undead fiend, but come on. Maybe she's an undead fiend. Who knows?
Why does the thought of eating human meat, whether for survival or otherwise, gross us out so much? If cannibalism saved lives, would it be morally acceptable? And under what conditions could it even be ethical?
Cannibalism is specifically the eating of a other human living being, so It's oh, for F's sake, no. Okay.
Or in other words,
just continue.
what's wrong with eating humans?
Empathy. Sometimes just empathy, for F's sake. Just empathy. Come on. Me as a butcher, I am actually used to this. So there's that. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, bunny. Looks really good. And yes, after even the theme, I don't care.
Human history is chock.
This was, by the way, beef, if I seen it correctly. Was it beef or pig? No, this. Oh, this looks like Schenkel. The Schenkel. No, this is beef. Yeah, beef.
Full of graphic stories of people eating each other. The oldest evidence dates back 100,000 years ago. Neanderthals in the Malagasy cave in France ate the brains, tongues, and thighs of their fellow Neanderthals. China has a long and very well documented history of cannibalism that will be giving me nightmares forever. In the 7th century, Du Quan says to his cook, "The only thing I have not tried is the steamed baby." Not only does his loyal cook deliver what he ordered, but the cook steamed his own baby. And at the end of the Sui dynasty, China's wealthy were reportedly throwing very fancy dinner parties where they served exotic food, including human meat, to their dinner guests. But it's not all tyrants and wealthy people eating suckling babies. There was also a lot of famine, perhaps the best excuse for eating your neighbors, although some people were still sentenced to death for it. Whether
fair enough. I think at least some good came out of it. Oh.
We like it or not, cannibalism has occurred on every livable continent, in every culture, and during every era of human history. In many cases, it was a last resort during times of famine or extreme survival situations. Other times, it's been a part of spiritual or cultural rituals, a way to honor the dead or ensure cosmic balance. Tibetan Buddhists, for example, ritualistically consumed pills made from deceased Brahmins, believing it would help them in attaining enlightenment.
Speaking as a cannibal myself, I ate my wife's placenta. We've been doing it as humans for like thousands of years. So any of my friends whose wives get pregnant, I go, hey, if you guys are going to throw it out, I'll take it. So I have a freezer full of human placenta.
But cannibalism occurs in a variety of other contexts as well. Certain cultures have been known to engage in
Oh, for F's sake. Oh, no. Acolytes? I think I might have found... No. 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 For
cannibalism or eating your enemies. This was done for different reasons, sometimes as a way of asserting dominance, absorbing the power of their enemies, or because they believed that
I eat your arm. Dominance asserted. What the freak? Oh, for F's sake. I think I'm gonna teach my zombies to actually throw their arms and be like, you can eat it. or when a zombie gives it to you, is it asserting dominance or just... accepting a freaking sausage or something like that. Damn.
that it would prevent the spirit from seeking revenge. Modern day examples of cannibalism are often about criminal or psychopathic cannibalism. The horrible things done by serial killers, sadists, and generally mentally unstable individuals. Like the Italian lady who killed 3 women, turned their bodies into tea cakes, and served and ate them with her friends and family, who had no idea what they were eating. Motivations vary from power to pleasure or compulsion. Or in the case of Leonardo Cianciulli, she believed that it would prevent her son from dying at war. And just looking at the sheer quantity of true crime media that's produced about these people, it's clear that we are fascinated by criminal cannibals. If you clicked on this,
I would agree with her on that it's fascinating to hear or to just know a bit about it, but still F yourself if you're doing this.
video, then I'm pretty sure you understand what I mean when I say that while I understand the horrific nature of these crimes and sympathize with the people who were affected by these events, I also just can't help being completely drawn to these stories. It's
a morbid fascination, fair enough. As long as you don't do this stuff, I don't care. A morbid fascination can actually help other people. That's not that bad. And there are enough people that I know that are very friendly in their lives that actually have this kind of fascination with thematics like that, but they wouldn't do it themselves. Acolytes.
fascination. I don't know why I'm like this. Some people go even further than just binging Monster on Netflix. Jeffrey Dahmer had thousands of letters written to him while he was in jail, and even today is still admired, even loved by fans.
Yeah, that's sick.
Not fans of his work necessarily, but people love him. Women love him.
Yeah.
Cannibalism adds a whole new level to serial killers that we just want so badly to understand. And then there's the grey matter. Medical or medicinal cannibalism has existed for centuries. King Charles II took a King's Drop potion made from human skulls, thought to preserve life essence and cure ailments. Roman physicians prescribed gladiator blood for epilepsy, and rooted in Confucian thought, Chinese children who offered their own flesh to their sick or dying parents were praised for their loyalty. Medicinal cannibalism is also why we don't have as many mummies as we're supposed to. Because over several centuries, thousands of Egyptian mummies were dug up, ground up, and sold as medicine called mumia.
Well, fair enough.
The laws surrounding cannibalism have never been that straightforward. At certain times during European history, cannibals were charged with lycanthropy, like Giles Garner, who was convicted of being a werewolf for the murder of at least 4 children. In 1884, a legal precedent was set when 2 of the 3 survivors of the mignonette were found guilty of murder for killing and eating a 17-year-old cabin boy while stranded at sea. Surprisingly, today most countries don't have explicit anti-cannibalism laws, but many do have laws against defiling or indecently interfering with human remains. In the UK, the Human Tissue Act makes it illegal to possess human tissue without appropriate consent. And just as I'm recording this, an Australian woman has been sentenced to an 18-month community corrections order after she found a dead man's toes in a bin, which she was going to sell online for $400. Who's buying toes? Someone's buying toes. Of course, anytime we look at a subject that's taboo, you're automatically going to find some freaky sex stuff. Sexual or fetishistic cannibalism.
I hope she's gonna skip this. Oh, for F's sake. And yes, acolytes, I informed myself when I was younger about this stuff, but I generally decided that it's actually not for me. But this what the F moment, I just had to.
Includes the sexual desire to eat or be eaten, also known as vorophilia. It's almost entirely a fictional fetish, although real-life cases do happen. Occasionally, someone will do something extra shocking to push the boundaries of morality, like the Japanese artist who cut off his genitals and served them at a high-end dinner event to consenting guests. What do we even call that? Perhaps it comes
sick. very sick.
Under the label gastronomic cannibalism, when people eat people not because they have to, but because they want to. We have many recorded statements documenting how delicious human flesh is, particularly that from children and women. Favorite parts are usually the palms of hands, soles of feet, and women's breasts. One notable study by archaeologist James Cole estimated that an average adult male human body contains approximately 126,000 kilocalories, which is a fair amount of calories, I guess.
Okay.
Flesh.
Non-flesh.
Kind of a gross word in itself, isn't it? Flesh comes up a lot in the Bible. Jesus was like, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you do not have life in yourselves. I hope we're not still taking the Bible literally. But we don't like to call it human meat, do we?
Most people don't, and I am happy it's that way.
We call it flesh because meat is how we refer to the animals that we eat. The non-human animals, of course.
Yes.
And funnily enough, they do cannibalism too. Lions, chimps, and even hamsters sometimes eat their own species. Sand tiger sharks eat each other in the womb, and praying mantises and black widow spiders engage in sexual cannibalism.
Texts were released from the person you were pursuing the affair with.
Sure.
One was from you saying, I am 100% a cannibal. Fuck, that's scary to admit. I've never admitted that before. I've cut the heart out of a living animal before and eaten it while still warm. Did you cut the heart out of the animal and eat it while still warm?
No, you don't eat the whole heart.
Okay.
The root of the term cannibal is derived from Cannibal or Carib, the name bestowed upon the indigenous group known as Kalinago from the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean. The term Carib was first recorded by Christopher Columbus, who is credited with introducing the word to Europe in 1492. In his diary, Columbus described the Caniba, or the Caribs, as a warlike group who supposedly ate their captives. Spanish conquistadors exploring the area also used the term Caribs for indigenous groups they considered hostile, while Arawak, the enemies of the Kalinago, was the term for groups considered friendly. But who knows if these guys actually saw anyone engaging in real cannibalism. Unfortunately, it was common for European colonists to exaggerate or fabricate claims that the Caribs were cannibals to justify enslaving and exterminating them. The savage cannibal stereotype became a tool of colonial propaganda used to dehumanize indigenous peoples and rationalize conquest. They may have had a reputation among their enemies as warriors who ate roasted human flesh, but the Kalinago community believes this to be an offensive myth. We're all probably aware of Trump's repeated mentions of the fictional cannibal Hannibal Lecter.
Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs? The late great Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter. Did anybody ever hear of Hannibal Lecter? The young people didn't. Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Hannibal Lecter. The late great Hannibal Lecter.
Seems ridiculous, right? And everybody wants to know why Trump continues to bring it up. I've seen people saying they think Trump's just stuck in the 80s. With all his outdated references, music, and fat, ugly ties. Or that he's stupid. He's getting the actor, Anthony Hopkins, who played Hannibal Lecter, mixed up with John Ford, who was openly supportive of Trump.
You know why I like him? Because he said on television on one of the I love Donald Trump, so I love him.
President Trump won't give up.
Some suggest that Trump struggles to differentiate between movies and real life, which may be true.
Is it possible the former guy straight up doesn't know that asylum has two meanings? When he hears about asylum seekers, he thinks asylum like insane asylum, like an insane asylum that Hannibal Lecter escaped from.
Or maybe he's just doing it for attention, a viral moment.
Could be.
Some comedic relief during his rallies, something to distract the media for a while. But then you see him say this.
They're emptying out their mental institutions into the United States, our beautiful country.
The problem with people jumping on the viral moment and criticizing Trump for being so stupid he can't tell fiction from reality, or any of these other reasons, it's that it fails to recognize that Trump is making a purposeful link between asylum seekers and insane asylums.
Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. That's insane asylums. They're emptying out their insane asylums. And terrorists are coming in at numbers.
I mean, fair enough. It's American politics. Of course, he's gonna do that as every other politician. So, fair enough. I still find him funny as fuck. So.
That we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen.
This is just another part of Trump's desire to turn the American people against immigrants. Like him or hate him, Trump is very good at communicating with his supporters.
I love the poorly educated.
And linking asylum seekers with the fictional cannibal, but also genius criminal, Hannibal Lecter, is not a mistake. Trump's actions are consistent with a long-held practice of dehumanizing certain groups of people with the savage cannibal stereotype in order to justify aggression towards them. And if you ask his supporters, it seems like it's working.
We just gotta stop them from coming in to...
For F's sake. You know what? I didn't see every single of Trump's thingy bob, but this is a gigantic reach. From what I seen, this is a gigantic reach, but let's just hear her out.
Save innocent lives.
What would solve the whole thing in the border if they would just start shooting? Only shoot a couple and they would go home.
But we're all seeing...
I don't care what she says about this. Poland. Just... Hey, I'm just saying. It works there. Of course it's not the... I just don't see how she associates cannibalism with Trump, that he just tries to actually say that everybody associates them, that he on purpose tries to make people that actually come in his country to associate with cannibals. That's... What the fuck?
Sick of hearing about Trump, so let's get back to history. Over time, cannibal...
I'm gonna be honest, this could have been just thrown out without any freaking thing, and it would be... But no, I assume that she's politically minded, so... Fair enough. First and last video I'm gonna watch it here from her.
Was transformed into cannibals in Spanish,
because
which
by now
became
it's
cannibal
still good
in English. By the 16th century, cannibal became a general term for any group accused of eating human flesh. But the idea of humans eating humans was not invented by Columbus, nor the enemies of the Kalinago people. And we know this because of language. Many languages have words, phrases, and insults for cannibalistic behaviors. The term man-eater is found all over the globe, in French, Spanish, and Swahili. In some cases referring to a dominant or dangerous woman, someone capable of cruelty, or ruthless and corrupt leaders. Germanic and Norse languages have words like meaning man-eater, and the German
Menschenfresser,
referring to folklore, trolls, giants, ogres, cannibals, and child-eating monsters. The Wendigo is a mythical man-eating spirit or a cursed person who resorts to cannibalism. In Japanese, meaning man-eater, is used for demons, monsters, and even serial killers. In Mandarin Chinese, the phrase translates to eats human flesh without spitting out the bones. It describes a ruthless, greedy, and merciless person, used historically for tyrants and corrupt leaders. And we also see cannibalism used as an insult. In Spanish, this phrase means you're worse than a cannibal, used to imply that someone is inhumanely cruel or monstrous. Sometimes cannibalism is aligned with moral wrongdoing, like in Arabic, which translates to he eats his brother's flesh when he is dead. This comes from the Quran, and it refers to slander and gossip as being metaphorically equivalent to cannibalism. Deep in our folklore and mythology, demonic creatures and monsters eat humans for breakfast. Witches eat lost children, vampires drink our blood, zombies eat our brains, and hill people do whatever the hell hill people do. So no matter where you come from, it's clear that cannibalism has deep-rooted negative connotations, representing cruel and oppressive rulers, exploiters, savage and inhumane behavior, and moral corruption. But these are just stories, right? Associations between words and ideas. Calling a corrupt leader a man-eater is in most cases metaphorical, not literal. So what's literally wrong with eating humans?
Okay, but...
For 22% of the global population, all meat probably grosses you out anyway. But for the rest of us, you probably eat meat fairly regularly. And yet, if I served you a perfectly cooked, ethically sourced, seasoned to perfection steak of human meat, you'd probably be grossed out. And then you'd call the cops.
Correct.
Deep in the lateral sulcus, the insular cortex is the part of our brains that is responsible for processing emotions, self-awareness, and importantly, disgust. When we see, smell, or even think about something that we find repulsive, like the smell of an unwashed belly button, the insular cortex lights up like a warning signal. From an evolutionary perspective, disgust exists to protect us from diseases and toxins. Most people know that when that 5-day-old Chinese food starts smelling bad, you probably shouldn't eat it. Let's face the consequences. It's the disgust response many of us have to things like decaying corpses and the bacteria that they harbor that stops us from eating them, so we don't get sick. When we think about cannibalism, our disgust reaction is more extreme.
All right, chef, can you tell us what 3 potential secret ingredients might be found in the sausage?
Fish liver, human flesh, or shark?
No.
I mean, the secret ingredient is human flesh. It is.
No. I got 2 words for you. Hell no, all right? I don't know what they do in Germany, but we don't eat humans here. We kill them, but we don't eat them, okay? Dude, I'm 2 seconds from throwing this at you. I'm not eating that. No.
Perhaps we instinctively associate human flesh with disease and death, even if
If this was a German, then fucking honestly.
it's perfectly safe to eat. And why is that? In the early to mid 20th century, the foray people, indigenous to the highland of Papua New Guinea, became infamous due to an outbreak of a mysterious fatal disease known as kuru. Kuru translates to shaking or trembling in the foray language, referring to the uncontrollable tremors that victims experienced. Kuru is a neurodegenerative disease caused by prions, misfolded proteins that lead to sponge-like holes in brain tissue, i.e. brain damage. It's similar to mad cow disease and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans. Symptoms include loss of muscle control, sudden outbursts of pathological laughter, and cognitive decline leading to coma
Okay, the laughter
and
thing,
death.
okay, fair
And
enough.
as if it's not scary enough to think about those symptoms, kuru has no cure and a 100% fatality rate, usually killing victims within a year. So why did the foray develop kuru? The foray practiced something called endocannibalism, meaning that they ate the flesh of their own dead as part of funerary rituals. Consuming their deceased relatives was an act of love and respect, allowing the spirit of the dead to live on within them. Unfortunately, at some point in time, someone's deceased loved one had developed a prion disease, likely due to a random genetic mutation. Infectious prions concentrated in their brain and spinal cord and spread to their loved ones after they passed away. Each time these rituals were performed, the infectious prions transferred to more and more of the community. Women and children were more affected by kuru because they were the primary consumers of infected human brains, while men mostly ate muscle tissue, which had fewer infectious prions. Cooking the meat didn't help stop kuru because, unlike bacteria or viruses, prions are nearly indestructible. They don't break down with heat, digestion, or standard sterilization. Western scientists linked kuru with cannibalism in the 1950s and 60s, and the Papua New Guinea government banned the practice. Despite this, some foray continued to develop kuru for decades after the ban, and surprisingly, others developed a genetic resistance to prions, which scientists now study for insights into mad cow disease and Alzheimer's. While kuru was officially recorded only among the foray, some researchers speculate that ancient civilizations that practiced cannibalism may have faced similar prion diseases, like certain Neanderthals and ancestral Puebloans from the American Southwest. Some modern humans have genetic protections against prions, which scientists believe could indicate a history of cannibalism among their ancestors. And then there are other
Damn.
civilizations who have practiced cannibalism that don't seem to have any issues with things like Kuru disease. Once the story of Kuru became worldwide news, it may have helped reinforce a genetic aversion to eating humans over recent generations. Basically, we're more grossed out by cannibalism now because of the known medical risks. But disgust isn't just about what we eat. It also plays a role in moral judgment. Have you ever noticed how we use disgust-based language to describe things that we find morally wrong? Like that behavior is revolting. He's a disgusting human being. I feel sick just thinking about it.
Tremendous goodies.
Why? You're having such a nice theme here. Why are you dragging politics into it, for fuck's sake? Really? And this is the same moment that just complained about him doing the exact same thing by comparing people to the thing that he's talking about. At least be... If you want to do this, then at least don't bitch about it, for F's sake. Damn.
Is in the bag for women between the fertilization and all of the other things that we're talking about.
While physical disgust, also known as core disgust, is caused by physical or chemical stimuli, moral disgust is evoked by abstract violations of moral norms. Things that are generally taboo, like bestiality, incest, and theft, or extending to cultural and religious taboos, like homosexuality or skinny jeans. Pizarro and others propose something called the amplification hypothesis, which suggests that when people feel disgusted, they judge moral transgressions more harshly. It makes wrong things seem even more wrong. The links between emotions like disgust and our moral judgments is an ongoing area of research. But it begs the question, is our rejection of cannibalism really about morals and ethics? Or is it just our insular cortex saying yuck loud enough?
I started trying to source meat from around the world that was human but ethical. This is a fillet of vegetarian-fed Chinese dissident and a cauliflower puree.
Butter. It's like butter soft. It's melting on my palate. I do not even need to chew it.
And do you know why? Their dissidents in China are kept in such narrow spaces that they become fatty over the years.
If we're going to try to look at cannibalism beyond our gut reactions and cultural bias, we might need a little help from philosophy. Moral philosophy, or ethics, is the study of what is right and wrong, good and bad, and how we're supposed to act. If you can bother to get through the reading material, philosophy can provide frameworks for thinking about moral dilemmas that affect us personally, but also as a society. If you don't know anything about philosophy, don't worry. All you need to know is that there are 3 major schools of thought, and philosophers rarely agree on anything.
That's why everyone hates moral philosophy professors.
I think philosophy works best when it's relatable. So here's a thought experiment. You're trapped in the Arctic. No food, no plants. Just a frozen corpse. What do you do? Even if you've never experienced true hunger, I think most of us can agree that there's a sort of survival logic to resorting to cannibalism in a situation like this. Utilitarians like Jeremy Bentham would probably say that if eating the dead meant maximizing survival, then it's the morally right thing to do. But what about cannibalism when it's not for survival, like ritualistic or cultural cannibalism? Well, who's to say that the foray people who practiced endo-cannibalism out of respect for their deceased loved ones were doing anything morally wrong? If the practice is accepted within their own cultural context, how can we judge it by the standards of ours? Cultural relativism says that if...
I don't know how, but I personally judge it like everything else in my life by the actual intent of it. Or at least for the most part. Because while I can, and still wouldn't do it, but I understand if somebody would do this ritual cannibalism because of their culture, that is showing respect to the deceased. Fair enough. I still wouldn't do it. Fuck that. But I don't judge them as harshly as somebody who actually just slays people for the taste. That's how I see it.
Morality is shaped by culture, then there's no universal right or wrong. But on the other hand, there's many things that older societies have accepted that modern ethics, public health, and human rights laws simply can't. In early 2001, Armin Muse, a German computer repair technician, posted an online ad which read, "Looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed." After receiving several responses that didn't work out, Armin made contact with 43-year-old Bernd Brandes, an engineer from Berlin who agreed to the act. On March 9th, they both engaged in what could be called consensual cannibalism before Muse stabbed and killed Brandes, storing parts of his body in his freezer to eat over the next several months. A year later, one of Muse's ads was reported to police and he was arrested. Despite the consensual agreement between the two men, prosecutors argued that Brandes was too mentally unstable to consent. Eventually, Muse was convicted for murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he has expressed remorse and is now...
And I think every logical human being can understand why he got busted, even if it was consensual, because then you would have a loophole where even, well, the biggest freaking bad actors could just force you to actually write a written agreement to actually off you and then not get, well, basically shafted for it by the law. So I think just stopping this loophole from ever happening is a good thing. But that's only me.
A vegetarian. And morally speaking, this is a tricky one. Legally, Germany has no specific laws against cannibalism. So why can't someone consent to being eaten? Libertarians like John Stuart Mill believed in the sovereignty of the individual to make decisions over his or her own body and mind. So if both parties consent, it's their right to do so, right? But Hobbes might disagree, because even with consent, some acts like cannibalism could undermine the moral fabric of society. According to social contract theory, Muse's actions violated the social contract, the rules that we all agree to, the freedoms we give up so that we can live in a society without violence, anarchy, and moral chaos. If people could legally agree to be killed, could that weaken the state's ability to enforce laws against murder? Consent might not be enough if it endangers the order of society. And when I think about the social contract, I don't just think about what we need legally to hold society together. I think about what society, or being evolved creatures, means to us as beings. It's a survival mechanism. We rely on a functioning society to keep us safe, fed, educated, and human. Without certain rules and structures, a certain level of decency and respect for our fellow humans, shit don't work. Our idea of cannibalism seems to sit at the border of our idea of our humanity. It's often depicted in movies and literature as this final tipping point into a dystopian hellscape where we don't care about each other and are only out for ourselves. Engaging in cannibalism transforms you into something that isn't quite human anymore. You are barbaric and uncivilized. And I wonder if this has something to do with funerals. Humans have long distinguished ourselves from animals by how we treat our dead. Unlike most other animals, we don't just leave dead people lying around, we ritualize the process and mourn those who pass. The burial of the dead is considered one of the earliest signs of human culture for archaeologists, dating back at least 100,000 years. Rituals like mummification, cremation, and burial reflects part of our humanity as civilized social beings. How we treat corpses represents how we see human life itself, as valuable and worthy of protection. Many ancient societies believed that a bad death, like a lack of a burial or dying in disgrace, led to an unrested spirit or eternal punishment. Even today, unclaimed bodies, mass graves, and war atrocities are particularly horrible for us to think about. So when it comes to cannibalism, or the desecration of a corpse, the act itself directly challenges what it means means for us to be civilized human beings. It's a regression back into savage beasts, a sign of moral degradation, and perhaps most importantly, a hallmark of societal breakdown, which is one of our most important fears. Of course, not all civilizations treat their dead the same, and what we find civilized or barbaric changes over time, but the need to honor our dead remains constant. As long as we value human life and death in this way and culturally refuse to accept otherwise, I think cannibalism will remain taboo. At least for now. Probably for the best. Okay, and that's all I have for you today. Sacrifice your likes, comments, and subs to the algorithmic overlords.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Still, if you don't mind the political integration in the entire thing, that's fine. I understand it, but I personally found this thematic very, very interesting. Gonna be honest, it is. But the constant injection of politics just put me out of it. This was just, for me personally, it was just way too distracting for it to be entirely there. At the end of the day, yes, it was interesting. It is something that, well, it's something to think about. But in the end of the day, hey, as it is, good night, acolytes.